Hello everyone, welcome to AWS Tutorials. In AWS Tutorials, you learn about AWS services. You all know that I have a series where I talk about Glue job optimization, whether it is optimization for the memory or performance or for the cost. And in that series, I am going to add a new chapter there. So let's get started. Before we talk about today's optimization, one of the prerequisites I will ask is that I'm not going to talk about what glue job or lake formation is all about. So if you know about AWS Glue and lake formation, then you're good to go. But if not, then I will recommend that either you use the crash course which is published by me or someone else to learn about AWS Glue and lake formation so that you can follow what I'm talking about in my tutorial. So with this prerequisite in mind, let's get started. So today's technique is all about using flexible execution class for the glue job. It is a new execution option or a class which is now available with AWS Glue job. And this option can be used with non-time critical or time insensitive ETL glue jobs. And this techniques actually help you optimize the cost. I mean, if you go through AWS documentation, they say you can save up to 35% of the cost if you use flexible execution class method for running the glue job. So let's try to understand what is this all about. But before we do that, let's see the example of this non-time critical ETL job or time insensitive ETL glue job. So what are the few examples here? So sometimes you build jobs and you want to test your jobs in your test and acceptance environment. You can consider these jobs as a non-time critical jobs because even if like the jobs run for a little longer time or if they are starting not at the scheduled time, it should not bother you much. I mean, what you can do is that you build your job and then run this all test run in the night, overnight. So you don't need to bother about time criticality. So that is one example. Sometimes you use ETL job for one-time bulk data upload. I mean, if you plan it in the right way, then you can make it non-time critical. Or sometimes you run job which needed a longer time frame, like sometimes you run a nightly jobs or weekend jobs where time criticality is not so important as long as job gets finished overnight or over the weekend. Those are some examples of non-time critical jobs. Or other jobs where time is not a consideration. So in very simple terms, if your start time of the job and how long the job takes to finish, if these two factors are not so important for your job, then you can say it is a non-time critical jobs. And such jobs, if you try to run with this flex execution method, then again, as per AWS documentation, you can save cost up to 35%. So how do I optimize job cost with flexible execution options? So basically, now you have two ways to run your job or configure your job. One is a standard job. And in a standard job, when you run the job, you pay for $0.44 per DPU per hour. So $0.44 per DPU hour, that's what you pay if you use a standard job. So think about like what job you have been creating so far before the flexible option become available. They are all the standard jobs and there you pay for $0.44 per DPU hour. But if you are using a flexible execution option with the job, then you pay only $0.29 per DPU per hour. So you can see here, if you choose the flexible execution option, per DPU hour charges or cost drop from $0.44 to $0.29. And that's how you save money. That's how you optimize on the cost. Now, a few additional things to know about flexible execution options. So you can use flexible execution option only if you're using AWS Glue version 3.0 or later. Should not be a problem. Most of guys are running the latest or they try to upgrade to the latest. And you can choose only G1, G1X or G2X worker types. So as long these two conditions you meet, you do have an option to run your job as a flexible execution with flexible execution options. And if you do so, then you reduce your per DPU hour cost from $0.44 to $0.29. Okay, so why flexible execution option is cost effective? I mean, like, why AWS is reducing the cost for you if you're using the flexible execution option. So the whole crux is in the capacity demand. So suppose you take a standard job. Standard job says that, hey, I need 5 workers and I want to start at 9 a.m. Suppose this is how you have configured your standard job. It needs 5 workers and it has to start 9 a.m. in the morning. Suppose it's a daily job. Then at 9 a.m. in the morning, the capacity for the job, which is 10 workers, will be immediately fulfilled and job will start 9 a.m. sharp and it will complete the processing of the data. So standard jobs capacity demands are immediately met depending on whether you're running it now or you're running out on a certain schedule. But if you configure the same job with flexible execution option, then demand is not necessarily immediately met, but demand is met or fulfilled based on the spare capacity. So if AWS has spare compute capacity for Glue, then that capacity will be given to the flexible job, otherwise not. That means that job will not necessarily start at 9 a.m. It will all depend on whether spare capacity was available for the job at that point of time, and if available, then that capacity is given. If not, it is not given. So the price of the flexible job is less because it is fulfilled using spare capacity of the Glue, and that's why the cost per DPU hour is low. But the downside, is that your job might not start at the same time you have scheduled for, and your job can take longer than usual time because not enough capacity was made available to the job. Okay, so let's try to understand this whole flexible job lifecycle, because this is very interesting and this will help you understand everything about this job, other than how to configure it, which is the super simple part actually, and I'm going to discuss that in the coming slides. So suppose that you created a Glue job demanding 10 workers of G1X, and the job has to start, say, daily at 9 a.m. Okay, that's simple job. 10 workers of type G1X worker type and starting at 9 a.m. So we will check this whole life cycle based on the 3 parameters: billing, the state of the job, which will start at 9 a.m., and resources available. So let's suppose 9 a.m. the 9 a.m. time comes. Then what happens? Suppose 9 a.m. time comes, and then the spare capacity, the spare capacity are resources. I should probably label it as spare capacity, but it's okay, fair enough. So resources available. So at this point of time, maybe when 9 a.m. comes and job said, hey, give me 10 workers, and suppose workers were available. Okay, in that case, job will immediately start at 9 a.m. But suppose, let's take a scenario, the workers were not available. The 10 workers are not available for the job. Then what will happen is that since 0 workers are available, the job cannot start at 9 a.m. So it will go to the waiting state. Okay. And billing will not start. Though you have scheduled it for 9 a.m., but billing will not start because job has not started. Suppose job will keep asking for resources because it doesn't want to live in the waiting state. It wants to go to the running state. So it will keep asking for resources for the spare capacity to be made available to it. Suppose after some time, two workers become available. Okay, so two workers spare capacity become available. Then job will change its state to running because it has got two workers, and the billing for the job will start, which will be at this point of time, since only two workers are available, it will be for two workers at the rate $0.29. Now, keep this in mind, guys, that even if job is configured for 10 workers, you are not billing for 10 workers. You are billing for 2 workers only because only 2 workers are made available at this point of time. And meanwhile, while job is running, it is still asking for more capacity because it is configured for 10 workers, but it has got only 2 workers. So it is not living in that satisfaction saying, hey, I want more workers because that's how it is configured for. So suppose, and why it's keep asking, and after some time assume that 4 more workers become available. So suddenly the glue gets 4 more workers spare capacity. Those 4 workers are given to this job. Job is still running, but now the capacity is 6 workers. 2 from earlier and 4 more it gets. So now you got 6 workers, and here onwards your billing will be for the 6 workers. Now let's assume after some time 2 workers are withdrawal. So Glue says, hey, sorry, I have more demand from standard jobs, and I cannot give 2 workers as a spare job. I want to withdraw 2 workers. So yeah, withdraw can happen. Okay, so say I want to withdraw 2 workers because I need it for my standard jobs, and in that case, now job will still be running, but now not with 6 workers, but now with 4 workers because 2 workers has been withdrawn, and the billing will happen for the 4 workers. So that's how, as more workers get allocated, it will get more workers and keep running. If workers are withdrawal, it will have less workers and keep running till it comes to the end. Okay. By the way, in any case, it can never demand more than 10 workers, but that's the maximum capacity it is configured for. The Glue, in this example, the configured for. Now, job can end in 3 states. It can succeed. Voila, yeah, everything went fine. It can succeed. It can take a longer time because it was designed for 10 workers, but it goes 2 workers, then 6 workers, then 4 workers, and God knows, then 10 workers again. So it might take a longer time. So it might not start at the same time it is scheduled, and it might take a longer time to finish because the full capacity was not provided to the job. But end of day, it can succeed. Or some error happened in the job, like it can happen with any job. It failed. Okay, nothing to do with flex option, but yes, there was some error in your code, something was wrong, and your job failed. Okay, so it can succeed, it can fail, or it can time out. Now, timeout can happen because of the 2 things. One thing is that there's something wrong in the code, and your code is taking more than usual time. Then it timed out. Okay, one could be natural timeout because of your code was not so optimized. Yeah, let's take that way. But other timeout can happen because since you needed 10 workers, but you're given only 2 workers, 6 workers, or 4 workers, like that, you're always under capacity. You took a longer time to execute the job. And you might not finish your job given timeout, in the configured timeout time. Then your job will not finish and it will time out. So third outcome is it can time out if your job could not finish in the given configured time for the Glue job. So that's how the life cycle of the job look like. Important thing to note is that job always asks for the full capacity. It is given capacity based on how much spare capacity is available with the Glue, and then with that capacity, Glue jobs runs, and your billing happens at any point of time, depending on how much capacity has been given to the Glue job to execute. Okay, that's how life cycle look like. Hope it made it simple for you to understand. Now, how do I configure flexible execution? That is a super simple part. One is you can configure a job as a flexible job. So now you have a choice to configure a job as a standard job or a flexible job. So you can simply, if you go to the job configuration in the job details tab, you will see an option for flexible execution checkbox. If you enable this checkbox, that means you are saying your job is a flexible job. That means it will always run in a flexible mode. Simple. And the second option is you can configure a standard job. Just like you have been configuring so far, you simply configure as a standard job. But when you are running it, you simply pass a parameter called execution class equal to flex. So when you put execution class equal to flex as one of the job parameters, job, even standard job, run as flexible job. So this is the second option, that you create the job like you have been creating so far. But when you run the job, you simply pass one additional parameter called execution class equal to flex. And when you do that, the job will run with flexible option. So you need not to always configure a job as a flexible job. You can configure your job as a usual standard job, but run as a flexible job. So that was the concept. Very simple one, but very powerful to save cost for those kind of jobs where time is not a critical matter. So what we are going to do, we are going to see a demo today. In demo, first we'll configure a flexible job. Again, no brainer demo, but we will see it. And the second one, we will run a standard job and with a flexible execution option. So let's turn to the demo. So here I go. I have AWS console. I have simply configured some S3 bucket where I'm using my sales data, and I have two output 1 and output 2 folder where I want to put my output data. Well, to be honest, I simply configure it so that I can create a job. And then, so let me go to output 1 folder, which is empty. Okay, fair enough, because I need to copy this URI from here. And let's go to Glue Studio job. So first one is I'm going to create a flexible job. I already have a standard job, which I'm going to run it later as a flexible. But right now, let me first configure a flexible job. So what I will do, I will select my source data as Glue catalog and destination as S3, create. So, yep, here we go. Nice. So what I will do, I will configure my source is Dojo database. In that, I have got my sales table. Okay, I just use some source data, like it's a CSV-based sales file which I am cataloging and using as data source. I'm going to do nothing reply mapping. Then I go to my S3 bucket. Destination location, I want to write in JSON format, no compression, and my destination location is, it is output 2 actually in this one, but it's okay. I will copy this thing here and change this to output 2. So simply I'm putting it into output 2 folder. Okay, because output 1 I have configured with standard job. Now my job script is ready. Now I go to my job details. Here I call it Dojo Flex job. Okay. And then I select my IAM role, in this case Dojo Glue role. My Glue job version has to be 3.1. Worker I choose as G1X, default 10 workers. And here I go. Here I say that I want to use flex execution option. That means this job by default is a flexible job. So I check this one. That's it. And I save it. Now I have created a job which is a flexible job. Whenever I run this job, it's going to run in a flexible mode only. So let's run it. So when I run it, yeah, it has started running. Now if I go to runs, you can see my job is going to running. It looks like it has got capacity immediately. So good enough. And most important thing here is that you can see execution class over here. Execution class is flex. So any job which is running with flexible option will have execution class as flex, and with that you can tell whether this job has run as a standard job or as a flexible job. So this was how easy it is to go and create a job, a flexible job. You just enabling one checkbox and your job becomes a flexible job. Now let's take a second scenario. So if I go to my jobs, let it run, and if I go to my Dojo standard job, now this is a normal job. This is a standard job. Same job I have created earlier, the same job I have created as a standard job. No difference. The only difference is in this case, if I go to my job details, first of all, flexible option is not enabled. That means this job is a standard job, okay, like you have been creating so far before flexible option was available. Now let me show you the runs tab. If I go to runs tab, actually there is only one successful run has happened, and it is writing to, by the way, output one folder, and output one is empty right now. You can see here output one is empty, but here I just tested it yesterday, so so you can see here it run the flexible execution option, but it is already finished. So I'm going to run it again one more time. So you can see here this is example of a standard job. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to run this job as a flexible job. So what I will do for that, I'll go to Cloud Cell, which has, okay, I have lost connection here. So yeah, here we go. Let's clear. And then I'm going to run a command to start this job, passing flex as execution class parameter. So if I paste it here, so you can see here I'm doing like you can start jobs through APIs or various other means as well. In this case, I'm simply using a CLI to make my job easy. So I'm saying AWS Glue start job run. Job name is Dojo standard job. And this is the magic parameter. Execution class is flex. And then I also provide a timeout, which I think is optional because I have already configured. So now if I run this command, the standard job will now run as a flexible job. So if I enter it here, you see I've got a job operation ID back. So now if I go to my Dojo standard job, I refresh this, I should see, yeah, you see here, my job has started running. It will, if you get a resource, it will run. Otherwise, it will simply go back to waiting stage. And you can see here that the execution class is flex, even if the job is a standard job. Okay, so just out of curiosity, I want to see whether my flexible job finished or not. So if I go over here and refresh it, go to my flex job, go to my runs. Yeah, it is still running. Okay, so it is still running, but looks like it has got the capacity. Might not be full, but yeah, it has got the capacity. So that was all I wanted to show you guys, that how you can configure a job as a flex job or run as a job as a flex job for non-time critical ETL jobs. And if you do so, you can save cost in terms of how much you pay for per DPU hour. So that was all for today. If you like the video, please like the channel. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like my video. Yeah, I promise to come back again in a week's time with another such video. In the meantime, please stay safe and have a nice day. Bye bye.